Hi, welcome, Dr. Miaken Zeigler of the future Monarch Family Chiropractic. This is our soon-to-be address coming January 3rd. This gets posted to our YouTube channel, so I want to make sure when you revert back to it here in 4 weeks, it is updated information. So welcome to a core chiropractic class. This is called the safety pin cycle. And frankly, I think this is a simplified conversation around really understanding your body. Have you ever, or has somebody ever asked you or made the statement to you and said, have you ever said, I don't believe in chiropractic? Oh, I don't believe in chiropractic. Has anyone ever said that to you before? I mean, I hear it being said. I'm a chiropractic kid. It's been a part of my life since my existence. And so even just saying that to me, I thought, well, that's strange because that's my life. Well, I want you to understand that chiropractic is not based on any belief system. Okay, it is science. It is anatomy. It is really understanding your brain and body and how it works and how the brain relates to the body and how your brain processes its environment. So next time when somebody says, hey, I don't believe in chiropractic, you'll know, whether you say it or not, you'll know that they're just uninformed. They don't understand. And that's typically what most people, where most people are, is they just don't understand chiropractic. Otherwise, everyone would be here, right? Everyone should have a chiropractor. So safety pin cycle. First, what is the function of the safety pin, right? And can the safety pin function as it's meant to when it's open? And if you look around our office, I don't know about you, Dr. Kristen, but we have tons of very big safety pins in our office, and here's the reason why. Because the safety pin is utilized as a symbol to represent the brain and body connection and what's called the afferent and efferent signaling between the brain and the body. So the brain is constantly communicating to our body, right? So we have this brain right at the top of, we're going to use this one. We consider this the brain right at the top of that safety pin. And the way the brain talks to its body, to our body or your body, is through this afferent efferent signaling. Okay, I'm going to actually go to this one next because I've got it here. So your brain, you have this afferent signaling and efferent signaling. So let's define those. Afferent is sensory input. So that's all of sensory input coming in from your body. And sensory input is visual. So one of the largest sensory input is our visual processing. It's how our brain interprets everything, right? And our brain always wants to keep our eyes level to the horizon. So it will compensate and shift and change our structure in order to keep those eyes level to the horizon. So visual processing is a big way for sensory input into the brain. Others are touch and feel, what we smell, what we taste, what we hear, right? Sensory input. And then the other big one is called your proprioception. Okay. Proprioception is like the sixth sense that's never really shared or taught in school, is like our body's ability to know where, our brain's ability to know where our body is in space, right? Without seeing or feeling or touching or hearing it, right? So I know my hand is behind my back because I know, right? I don't need to see it. I don't need to feel it. I just know. So that's the sixth sense, which is proprioception. So your brain takes all of this information, sensory information in, right? and it processes it, and it sends an efferent signal out. So efferent is motor signal out to respond, right? So if you touch a hot stove, right? You touch a hot stove, your brain says, whoa, danger, danger, pull your hand away, right? And you pull your hand away. And understand these signals happen in timeframes that we can't even fathom, right? It's boom, boom. In fact, the brain signaling occurs at around 280 miles per hour to 280 to 300 miles per hour. That's how quickly our brain is signaling to the rest of our body. And so anybody who is in healthcare, who is a doctor, who is a provider, who really understands, how your brain and body function, right? And whose intent is to enhance the expression of life, not merely to control symptoms, but to enhance your expression, understands this critical pathway between afferent sensory input and efferent motor input, right? So this is well understood across all medical systems, whether you're an MD, a DO, whether you're a massage therapist, whether you are a doctor of chiropractic, whatever you fall into, a naturopath, this is understood. This is anatomy, right? This is physiology. So this is science, not a belief system, right? Oh, I don't believe in chiropractors. No, that's not correct, because chiropractic is based on principles of science and structure and anatomy, physiology. So I want you to think about your body and brain and how it signals based on sensory input. Let's use an example, right? Fever. Now, if you've listened to my immune talk, you'll understand that fever is a really important part of immune health, right? It's typically when our brain and body raise its internal temperature, it's because our immune system is recognizing there is a foreign invader within our body. And one of the ways we do that is that we raise our temperature, because when we raise temperature, we actually kill things, right? We denature proteins, right? We cook proteins, we cook vegetables. Sometimes that heat will take nutrients out, right? We kill life with heat. So our fever is our body's way and our immune system's way of raising the temperature. But have you ever had a fever and you go between sweating, oh, I'm so hot, to, oh, chills, I'm so cold, right? You go between the hot and chills. That's because your immune system and your brain is so intelligent that it knows this pathogen needs a very specific temperature of 102.8 in order for our body to get rid of it and take care of it and kill it. And so when you go above that 103.8 or whatever I said, 102.6, when you go above that temperature, what happens? Oh my goodness, you start getting hot, you start sweating, you pull the covers off, you need to lower that temperature. And as soon as you go below, what happens? Boom, boo, start shivering, I need to be cold, right? So there's this constant sensory and motor loop taking place between your brain and body to maintain an optimal temperature of fever that is intelligent, right? To take care of whatever is within the body, right? We were always taught, man, fever is a bad thing. If we are above 98.6, that's a problem. It's not necessarily a problem. It's just a signal, right? Our brain and nervous system are signaling that something's not right, something's not normal, and our brain responds, then our body responds, right? It's this constant afferent, efferent loop that's taking place amongst trillions and trillions of cells to keep us upright, to keep us breathing, to keep us able to process our environment physiologically. Like 90% of our nervous system is constantly trying to keep us in a level of homeostasis to function and process our world. So we don't have to think about it, right? We don't have to think, oh, I'm running right now, so I need to increase my heart rate because I need to get blood to muscles and I need to get oxygen to my muscles because they're working harder, right? Oh, I need to increase that. No, we don't need to think about that. Thank God. If we did, man, we'd have trouble having any coherent thought, right? So any healthcare modality who doesn't recognize that there's this brain-body loop, this safety pin cycle, is really doing a disservice if they're just looking at totally addressing the body's expression and response, right? Because if we take out that loop of motor response, then we have a problem, right? So let's just go to, I'm going to stop sharing because I want you to see this. You guys have been to a chiropractic office, so you have seen this before, but I love this chart. So, you guys, I know you've seen it at Dr. Kristen's office. So let's just talk about this in terms of the safety pin cycle, okay? So our brain was the first organ to form in utero. From the brain came every cell, organ, tissue, gland in the body. Brain was in control of its development, in control of its function from day one till the last day of life. It's the only thing fully encased in bone. Okay, so this system is important. Now, if you have any type of stress or interference to this system, right? All sensory input, we have postural distortions, right? If we've got poor movement in our spine or in a joint of the body, if we have any type of emotional trauma, when we are in emotional trauma, we tend to hold it here, right? We pull ourselves forward, we protect ourselves, and that impacts how our brain processes things. If we do any unilateral movements, right? Golfing, or we're using a mouse on the right side all day long for 10 hours a day for years at a time, that can create an abnormal pattern. So if you have any type of abnormal input in through this afferent system, that means the brain has poor information to go off of how it responds to our environment. And so the efferent, the motor response, is all of this stuff on this right column here. Okay, so just sit with this. I love this chart. So this shows you nerves that exit out of each of these segments, what their primary and secondary functions are, the tissues, organs, glands that carry out those functions, possible symptoms we could be experiencing. So let's say we have a headache, right? And if you tuned into the workshop a couple weeks ago, I talked about headaches being vascular in nature, neurological in nature. But let's say we have a headache. What are we taught to do in this country? We are taught something is wrong. I don't feel good. I need to take something. And when I take something, I feel better. It's gone away. I'm healthy. Now, if you understand the safety pin cycle, this afferent efferent loop, you may think, man, maybe that's not so good because this symptom, this alert, this trigger is my brain's way of telling me something's not right here. Maybe I need to do something differently to really address why it's going on. So in chiropractic, we call that subluxation. Okay. So if you have a subluxation, a malalignment or stress to that nervous system that impacts how our brain is receiving information and impacts how it processes, then ultimately it can impact the expression of how we feel. And so if we have a headache or migraine, we're taking an Excedrin and we're numbing that. We're just putting that pain loop, we're just numbing that pain loop, right? It's like shutting off the check engine light in our car. Oh, the check engine light's on. I'm just going to shut that off. It's not there, right? Other problems start to exist, start to show up. So it can really challenge our brain's ability to handle things. And so we start to see these stressors dive deeper and deeper and deeper into the system, right? So it typically doesn't always start with big symptoms. It starts with, oh, I'm feeling tight and restricted. Oh, I don't have my full range of motion. Oh, I'm feeling lower energy. I'm not sleeping well. My digestion has changed. I'm not as regular, or I'm sometimes regular and I'm not as regular, right? These symptoms show up long before the big ones show up, right? But it's a process that takes place over time. And so when you look at these effects here, because I love this chart. Okay, let's go down to the low back. If you have a subluxation in your lumbar spine that impacts all of this stuff, it takes 60% interference to that afferent efferent loop, that safety pin cycle, for us to experience symptoms. Why? Because only 10%, when we look at the brain and nervous system, when we look at that anatomy, only 10% of that is allotted to feeling pain, feeling temperature, feeling sensory input, pressure input. So it's a very small amount of that brain and nervous system that actually is responsible for pain, okay? So it takes 60% interference to that system before we start to feel anything, right? So if we are going off of this column and how we feel, by the time we're experiencing low back pain, or by the time we have a disc bulge or disc degeneration or a disc herniation, how long do you think it's been around? And did we experience any type of symptoms before that, right? We probably did. So let's go back to, I love this chart. Look at this chart and ask me or ask Dr. Kristen when you're getting adjusted, hey, where did you adjust me today? A lot of times we see upper cervical spine subluxation because guess what? This is where all of sensory integration is processed, right in this brainstem, right where C1 is before it goes up into the brain. So a lot of times we see C1, C2 subluxation because this is hugely impacted with how our body or our brain really processes that sensory input. And when we adjust through here, I mean, this is a really important area. Let's just look at some of these symptoms. Do you know anybody or have you experienced trouble sleeping? What about low energy or fatigue? What about headaches, migraine? What about immune deficiency? We see a low immune response or a stressed immune response when you have subluxation in your upper cervical spine. Because again, how your brain and nervous system can process sensory input, and what's that brain immune system, that neurological and immunological connection, how well can those two process together? Let's look at, man, kiddos. Oh, kiddos we see really respond well to chiropractic care, because look at this. Sensory and spectrum, ADD, ADHD, we see focus challenges. I mean, kids' brains are growing and developing, and they're put under significant stress. So if they've got subluxation going on this upper cervical spine, how do you think that impacts their ability to process their world? And we're asking them to use executive function, right? We're asking them to respond and act more adult, be more mature. And yet if they've got stress to a nervous system and they literally cannot operate where we want them to be, we see them shifting back into lower hierarchies of brain function, and we see this type of symptoms show up. Anxiety, stress, you know anybody who's dealing with that? High blood pressure, depression. We see all of that in this upper cervical spine. And again, it's all about that brain body loop, that safety pin cycle, because it impacts our brain's ability to process and experience our world. And again, what does our current healthcare system say to do? It says, numb it, take it away. You shouldn't feel this. No, you should feel this, right? You should know exactly what's going on with your body. You should, normal, healthy function, normal, healthy body is moving, has energy, right? Has flexibility, has range of motion, has strong endurance and cardiovascular health. That's normal. That is normal, healthy body, right? So we've been led down this road to believe that we are destined to arthritis. We should have some type of chronic disease. Yes, it's normal to take prescription medications. The average person takes something like 12 or 13 a year, 13. That's not okay with me, right? Because if we are going down the rabbit hole of really trying to address the symptoms alone and not address where it's coming from, that can become a real big problem in years and decades, right? So let's go back to my PowerPoint here. 6:07, I still got time. Okay. Now I'm going to stop sharing. I just want to make sure you guys can see this. So that's why I have to go through this process. So the efferent-afferent loop, vitally important. Now, when you have a subluxation, this is why we love the safety pin. When you have a subluxation, this is what's happening. There's a disconnect. The brain isn't totally able to talk to the body, or the body isn't totally able to talk to the brain. It is a disconnect. It is confusion. It is chaos. It is, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm going to respond because there's a response that needs to take place, because we need to process, because we need to get through this day, get through this moment, get things done, right? And other things are impacted. So this is a subluxation. And when we adjust you, this is what happens. Your safety pin is closed. You are better connected. You are better able to process. Your brain is receiving better input from your environment, better sensory information, because you're moving better. There's better input that way. You're more aligned, right? You're not taking on that unilateral pattern. You're emotionally better able to process things because you feel like you can better integrate what you're experiencing with that family or friend or relationship, or stress related to finances or holidays, right? So you're sitting up more upright, ready to experience the world. That sensory input changes the output. And so you are more connected. And that's what happens with an adjustment, which is amazing, right? That's where adjustments are cumulative. You get chiropractic care for years and decades. That is a brain and nervous system that is more highly responsive, more resilient, more adaptable to an ever-changing world and ever increasing stressful world, right? I mean, they've done research out there. Chiropractic patients are the healthiest patients because they are more responsive to how they process their world. You know how the allopathic model or healthcare model assesses healthier? They say, well, you're not taking as many medications. You're not going to the hospitals often. If you go to the hospital, it's less time in the hospital, right? But there are other outcomes that we like to measure. Like, what's your energy levels? How do you perceive your world? Do you have a positive attitude about your world? How's your movement, right? How often you get sick? We see chiropractic patients have better outcomes in terms of life expression. So much bigger than, well, they're not taking as many meds, right? So when we talk about the safety pin cycle, we're really talking about normal, healthy function. But what's that translate to you? That translates to a better, more connected you. That means you can be a better mom, be a better husband. It means you can be more connected and productive at work. That means you can get and do the things that you love to do, whether it's playing basketball or playing with your kiddos. That means you are a better you, period, because your body is able to, and brain is able to talk to each other and respond the way it was meant to. So how am I doing? 6:11. I just want you to see this here. So to arrive at health, you need better connection. When you have better connection, that means communication and understanding is taking place of what is going on, whether it's at a specific level or overall body health. And when you have better connection and communication, that means the whole system is better coordinated in how it responds to your world. And when those are working in synchronicity, you have health. I want you to think about this because you have trillions of cells in your body. All of those cells are under the control of your brain and nervous system. And your brain needs to understand what is going on with each individual and whole all at one time. So think about those trillions of cells like a flock of geese or a school of fish, right? A school of fish in an ocean, you can have hundreds and they're moving as one, right? That's your body. right? That is your body. And that when those trillions of cells are moving as one and communicating and coordinating, that means you are expressing a level of health and resiliency. That means you get exposed to a pathogen or a virus. Let's say you get exposed to COVID, and your body is connected, it's communicating, it's coordinated. It can rally an immune response. It can modulate that immune response. Not only that, chiropractic patients tend to eat differently, tend to take care of and respond differently to stress. So you guys tend to do things differently than the average person. So it builds, right? So that's where you have health. So I want to end here because it's 6:13 and I want to honor your time. Let me take this off here. So this is where I want to end. Last week, actually, it was Thanksgiving week. My best friend from high school, her dad, who was like, you know, a second dad to me, committed suicide because he'd been experiencing chronic low back pain for years. Now, to be chronic, it needs to be 3 months in duration. I'm talking years and decades. So for decades, he had been experiencing low back pain. I'm assuming he went all the routes of what our medical system has to offer. I'm assuming the pain meds didn't work. Maybe he had surgery. I don't know. Maybe he had a surgery consult. He wasn't a candidate. I don't know. But he took his life on Thanksgiving because it was too much. And I think this is why I do what I do, because maybe I couldn't, or a chiropractor couldn't have done anything now, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, if he would have gotten the care that he needed, would have sent him or put him on a different trajectory that could have changed his entire life. This is why I do what I do, because most people think that suppressing a symptom and getting rid of a symptom means health. If you feel good, you're healthy. Health is so much bigger than that. And in fact, you were meant for so much more than what you are experiencing today. Your friends, your families, your colleagues are meant for so much more, because your life, and when you are connected, you express health differently and your life is different. You're more resilient. You're more adaptable. You're not thinking about every waking moment being in pain. And I wonder if that guy that I just saw is in pain. And I don't know if I can continue to handle this. And I've got a family, but I can't even think about my family because my pain is so bad. I can't even fathom what state of mind he was in. And so this is my challenge to you, because most people think, oh, I don't believe in chiropractic. Well, it's not a belief system. It is, you know, our anatomy. And when you're disconnected, you're disconnected. And you may only experience some restriction and tightness, maybe some low back pain here and there or whatever it may be, but down the road, years from now, decades from now, that's where it's a problem. And that's where Dr. Chris and I are thinking about. We want your life, we want your health, we want your family and community to be healthier 5, 10 years from now, so you can do the things you love to do now and more. So I know it was heavy, and I appreciate you sitting with me as I've just been grappling with this grief, because it's really, I really take it personally, because there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people out there who are, you have an opioid pandemic, who are dying because they've been given pain meds from their doctors. Majority of those prescribe pain meds because of some type of musculoskeletal complaint, mostly low back. I take it personally. So this is my challenge to you. Who can you share this with, and who can you share chiropractic with? Who can you bring to the office so that they understand and know that there's something else out there that, you know, can support their health and well-being. because it's got to be so much bigger than Dr. Kristen and I. We can't do it alone. The stake, I mean, our community and the health of our community is at stake. So I look forward to hearing your takeaways in the office. I love for you to really think about over the next week that brain-body loop, and really when you're experiencing something, say, what's going on? What am I doing differently? What is my body telling me? So be curious, because our body does nothing and our brain does nothing, in error. It's intelligence. It's highly intelligent, constantly striving to heal. And you are far more intelligent and far more powerful than you've ever been led to imagine. So Dr. Miaken Zeigler, Dr. Kristen Zawada, Monarch Family Chiropractic, we can't wait to see you in the new space. I'm going to stop recording here, and if you have questions,